بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ما بعد. Jamaat Muslimin, respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum jami'an aynama kuntum. Welcome to each and every single one of you, wherever you might be. This is our program, Palestine, the Holy Land. And as the horrific massacres continue, and so many more innocent lives are taken, infrastructure destroyed, hospitals blown up, refugee tent camps incinerated, we continue to highlight the plight, the desperate plight of our brothers and sisters in Gaza and the continuing genocide that has been committed and is being committed against them. And as we mentioned last week, and the driving machine, the engine that is driving this settler colonial Zionist project is the dehumanization of the Palestinian people. From the time of the Christian Zionists in the 19th century and the early 20th century, the likes of Arthur Balfour and Winston Churchill and David Lloyd George, and then of course the political Zionist movement that came to the fore in 1897 with Theodor Herzl as its founder. And ever since then, right up till today, the same dehumanizing rhetoric is repeated and regurgitated and acted upon in the brutal occupation and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, the indigenous people of this land. The article that we were dealing with the last time we were together was an article from Al Jazeera. And inshallah ta'ala, what I would like to do with you is, once we have completed this update of the current affairs, what is happening on the ground right now in Palestine, an update with what's happening in Gaza, as well as an update with what is happening in the West Bank. I then want us to again address the context, the historical context of why this is happening. Where are the roots? What are the root causes? And how is it being fueled to the degree where we see a genocide unfolding in front of our eyes and the world can do nothing to stop it? But for now, we're going to continue with our update. And the article that we were busy with was an article by Ahmed Najjar, a Palestinian political analyst and playwright, under the title, Israel Kills, Lies, and the Western Media Believe It. The execution of 15 Gaza medics and rescuers demonstrates just how normalized the dehumanization of Palestinians is. That was the thing that we were concentrating on and that we zoomed in on in our last program in which we were together. So I want to continue now with this article, and I'm going to skip past the part with regards to the medics, because we have looked at that in some depth. And the fact that the Israelis lied about it And then the footage was retrieved from the phone of Rifat Radwan, one of the murdered medics. And it shows clearly the flashing red lights. The ambulances themselves were clearly marked. And there were no weapons in sight. And then the heavy Israeli gunfire. Rifat's body was later found in a mass grave along with 13 others, some of which bore the signs of execution, bullets in the head or chest, and hands bound. Even in death, they had to prove that they were aid workers. And still much of the Western media reported Israel's version. First, Israel says, the IDF states, a military source tells. These carefully worded lines carry more weight than the blood-stained uniforms of the Red Crescent, more than the evidence, more than the truth. And this juxtaposed against the way that the media, the Western media in particular, reports the Ukrainian conflict. And that is a conflict, that is a war. Why? Because there are two armies. This army has planes, that army has planes, this army has tanks, that army has tanks. This army has drones, that army has drones. This army has anti-aircraft fire, this army has anti-aircraft fire. But yet, when you listen to the Western media platforms, the news anchors, the way they speak about the Ukrainian victims and the Russian perpetrators, you get a very clear picture of the good guys and the bad guys. But not when it comes to the way the Western media reports on atrocities when they are committed by the Zionist state. Atrocities committed by Russia? No, say it for what it is. Say it for what it is. That's the Western media. Russia is the perpetrator. Ukraine is the victim. This is what we get every single day in the Western media pertaining to that conflict. But pertaining to the genocide and ethnic cleansing that's been committed against the Palestinians and their liberation struggle, this is a struggle for freedom, a struggle for justice, a struggle for human dignity. No, the Palestinians are the perpetrators. And the Israelis, they just make mistakes. That is the picture that the Western media paints. I'm not talking about alternative Western media, I'm talking about mainstream Western media. This is not new, this is not an isolated mistake, this is a system. A system in which Palestinians are presumed guilty. A system in which hospitals must prove they are hospitals, schools must prove they are schools, and children must prove that they are not human shields. A system in which our existence is treated as a threat, one that must be justified, explained, verified before anyone will mourn us. Ahmed Najjar says, as a Palestinian. He's speaking on behalf of the Palestinians. This is what dehumanization looks like. He says, I was born and raised in Gaza. Ahmed Najjar, he says, I was born and raised in Gaza. I know what a Red Crescent vest means. It means hope when there's nothing left. It means someone is coming to help, not to fight, not to kill, but to save. It means that even in the middle of the rubble and death, life still matters to someone. And I also know what it means to lose that, to see medics killed and then smeared. If I'm not mistaken, between 800 and 1,000 medical personnel have been killed in Gaza. That's unheard of. 500 humanitarian aid workers. That's unheard of. Almost 300 journalists. That's unheard of. Not to mention all the academics and professors and school teachers and you name it. He says, to hear the world debate their innocence while their colleagues dig through mass graves to watch the people who tried to save lives reduced to statistics, framed as suspects, then forgotten. Then forgotten. Winston Churchill, what did he say? He said, because the dog has been laying in the manger for a long time, doesn't give him more right to the manger. He was speaking about the Palestinian people. They have been there for the longest time. They have been there. They have been there for the longest time. The Palestinian people. Yet, all of a sudden, they have no right to their land. They have no right to self-determination. They have no right to justice. They have no right to freedom. They are spoken of as subhuman. Human animals, Yoav Galan said. Dehumanization is not just a rhetorical problem. It's not just media framing or political language. It kills, it erases. Just like Franz Stengel. Just like who? Just like old Franz Stengel. Remember Franz Stengel? The commandant of Treblinka? When they asked him after he was captured after the war, why did you have to dehumanize the Jews? Degrade them, humiliate them, treat them like animals. What did he answer? He said it made it easier to kill them. Dehumanization always precedes a genocide. Dehumanization always precedes massacres. Precedes a Holocaust. Dehumanization does not differentiate between male or female, old or young, fighter or medic, doctor or humanitarian aid worker. When a people are dehumanized, then they are all fair game. They are all walking with targets on their backs. They've been dehumanized. So those that look upon them as being subhuman, the Übermensch, like the Nazis said, they were the master race. And the Nazis looked upon the Jews as Untermensch, the subhuman race. It made it easy for the Nazis to kill them. On an industrialized scale. Which is what is happening in Gaza today. And please, let's not get into a debate about numbers. Because the Jerusalem Talmud and confirmed in the Holy Quran that to destroy one life is to destroy the whole world, and to save one life is to save the world entire. The 2,000 Jews that were saved by the Nazi businessman Mr. Schindler. It was made into a movie. Schindler's List. And in the movie, the one that was sort of in charge of the Jewish workers, when Mr. Schindler saved them from the death camps, they gave him a ring. And inscribed on that ring were the words of the Jerusalem Talmud, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirms in the Quran. وَمِنْ أَجْلِ ذَلِكَ كَتَبْنَا عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ ومن أجل ذلك كتبنا إلى بني إسرائيل على أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا. And because of that, because of the murder of Qabil, Qabil killed and murdered his brother Habil. Cain killed Abel. Cain murdered Abel. Because of this, كتبنا على بني إسرائيل. Not إلى, على. كتبنا على بني إسرائيل. We have written, we have prescribed, we have decreed, we have ruled, says God Almighty. And this is, of course, what we call Damir al-Azama, the pronoun of greatness. Because of this murder, the first murder, we have prescribed, we have ruled on the Israelites that whoever takes one life, أنه من قتل نفس بغير نفس, without it being for a life for a life, that is, obviously has to go through a court of law, in front of a qadi, in front of a judge. And if the family of the victim doesn't want to take the compensation, they can ask for qisas, they can ask for a life for a life. So whoever takes one life, not being for a life, spreading mischief on the earth, then it's as if they have killed the whole of mankind. And whoever saves one life, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. Whoever saves one life, it's as if they have saved the whole of mankind. Look it up in the Jerusalem Talmud. The same words are there. Whoever destroys one life has destroyed the world entire. Whoever saves one life has saved the world entire. So don't say, oh no, you can't compare 50,000 or 60,000 to 6 million or 3 million, whatever the case might be. Whatever number it was. One life, God says. The God of Abraham. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One life. If it destroys one life, as if they've destroyed the whole world. Whoever saves one life, as if they have saved the whole world. That is Islam, and that is right there, still to this day, to be found in Judaism. That's why Judaism is not Zionism. Zionism is a La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What is this? A death cult that rains death upon those who they consider to be less than them, inferior to them, not as human as them. This is fascism. This is how the Nazis behaved. Dehumanization is not just a rhetorical problem. It is not just media framing or political language. It kills, it erases. That's what dehumanization does. And just listen. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. Go to your YouTube, go to your TikTok, go to your Facebook, and just look at the language of the Zionists against the Palestinian people. And you will see it. You will see it. You will hear it. And you will feel it. You will feel that chill, the chilling statements about erasure of a people, destroying a people, mowing the lawn, cutting the grass. It will send a chill down your spine. I remind you, this is not the Mongol horde. This is not the savage crusades of 1099. And we've also had atrocities over the history of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We've even had of our own people, of our own Muslim Khans and Sultans that have committed atrocities against their own people. And others. Temur Lang. It is said that the Mongols caused the death of about 40 million people. Temur Lang, who was a Mongol Turk and boasted that he was the sword of Islam, committed great atrocities in the name of Islam. And it had nothing to do with Islam. And we as Muslims must state that boldly and state that clearly. As clear as the sun in the middle of the sky on a cloudless day. He said the wars perpetuated by Temur Lang caused the death of approximately 17.5 million people. And most of them were Muslim. Most of them were Muslim. So, and all he was trying to do was just to recreate the empire of his of his ancestor Genghis Khan. The Crusades, their first victims were who? The Jews of the Rhine. The Jews of the Rhineland. That's where the Ashkenazi Jews come from. From Speyer, Mainz and Worms. Speyer, Mainz and Worms. 3 German towns on the Rhine. In a place called Ashkenaz. They were the first victims of the Crusades. When the Crusaders came through there, they massacred, they slaughtered the Jews. And on their way to the Holy Land, they committed massacre after massacre, even cannibalizing the people of Ma'arat al-Nu'man in Syria. And on that hot day of the 15th of July, 1099, and they broke through the city walls of Jerusalem, and they burnt the Jews alive in their synagogue. And they put just about every inhabitant of the holy town of Jerusalem to the sword, that the chronicler said that the horses waded in their knees, nay, up to their bridles in blood. Obviously, this is an exaggeration, but the way that the blood was shed on that day in one of the most holiest of places on earth, that even the bridles of the horses were soaked in blood. So when we read about the Mongols or Temurlang, or we read about the Crusades, you say, okay, that was, 1,000 years ago. But we look at the savagery and the brutality of 2025. And we ask ourselves, what has happened to humankind? Have we learnt nothing? Where's our humanity? Have we got worse? Have we digressed? These are important questions to ask. And the answers are not far away. In the time of the Mongols and the Crusades, there was no social media. There was no live streaming. Now we are seeing it live. People can lie, but when the phone has been out and recording, that lie is debunked. Dehumanization, I'm repeating myself. Dehumanization is not just a rhetorical problem. It's not just words, it's not just rhetoric. It's not just media framing or political language. It kills, it erases, it allows the world to look away while entire communities are wiped out. There's going to be a reckoning. And I don't know if the world is ready for that reckoning. These crimes are not going to go unpunished. God doesn't sleep. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Neither slumber nor sleep overtakes him. Jamaat al-Muslimin, we are at that time in our program where we need to go for a break. But stay with us, we'll be back thereafter bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala ma ba'd. Jamaat al-Muslimin, respected viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our program, Palestine, the Holy Land. Palestine. This word Palestine is a word that is on the tongues of so many people around the world. In the hearts and minds of so many people around the world. And especially young people. And coupled with that word Palestine is that Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. وَاللَّيْلُ مَهْمَا طَالَ فلا بد من طلوع الفجر. No matter how long the night is, the dawn must rise in the morning. The Palestinian people have been experiencing a very, very long night. A dark night. A difficult night. But the dawn is soon going to rise. And ghazban, the Arabic language is very powerful. Despite what the world is doing or not doing, despite what the evil plotters are plotting or not plotting, the truth will prevail in the end. The light of justice and liberty will shine bright. يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون. They want to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah completes and perfects His light even if the disbelievers dislike it. This is the light of truth. قل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. Say the truth has come and falsehood has fled away. Falsehood has perished. Indeed, falsehood is bound to perish. He says here, going back to our article by Ahmad Najjar, he says this is why the deaths of these 15 medics and rescuers matter so deeply. Because their story is not just about one atrocity. It is about the machinery of doubt that kicks in every time Palestinians are killed. It is about how we must become our own forensic investigators, our own legal team, our own public relations firm, while mourning the dead. This burden is not placed on anyone else. When Western journalists are killed, they are honored. When Israeli civilians die, their names and faces fill the screens around the world. When Palestinians die, their families have to prove that they weren't terrorists first. This is what dehumanization looks like. That they have no right to resist, no right to fight, no right to resist, no right to exist. No right to resist, no right to exist. That you must know that when the world wants to erase the resistance of a people fighting for survival, when they want to erase the resistance, what they actually are doing is to erase their existence. That is what they are doing. By erasing the resistance, they are erasing their existence. Every people has a right to resist. A divine right. And a right that is so natural and so part of the human psyche and the inherent natural disposition of man that is enshrined in international law. The right of an occupied people to resist occupation. He says here, we are always guilty until proven innocent. And often not even then. Study after study has found that Western media quote Israeli sources far more than Palestinian ones, and fail to challenge Israeli statements with the same rigor. Palestinian voices are not only marginalized, but are also often framed as unreliable or emotional, as if grief discredits truth, and as if pain makes us irrational. This media pattern fuels and reflects political decisions, from arms sales to diplomatic immunity, from silence at international forums to vetoes at the United Nations. It is all connected. When Palestinians are not seen as fully human, their killers are not seen as fully responsible. كلمات ينبغي أن تكتب بماء الذهب. These words should be written with the ink of gold. I'm saying that. Those are my words. And the emotional toll is immense, he says. We do not just grieve, we defend our grief. We do not just bury our dead, we fight to have their deaths recognized. We live with a psychological pressure no community should bear. Wallahi, the situation of our brothers and sisters in Palestine is unbearable. Yet, by the grace and mercy of our Creator, they are still bearing it. They are still bearing it. They have not surrendered. They have not given up. They have not lost faith. Put yourself in their position, whoever you are. Put yourself in their situation. How much of it could you bear? The pressure to prove we are not what the world has already decided we are. These 15 medics and first responders were heroes. They ran towards danger. They served their people. They believed in the sanctity of life. Even in a place where life is constantly under siege, their memory should be sacred. Rahimahumullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. May Allah shower His mercy upon them and accept their martyrdom, Ya Rabbil Alameen. He says here, instead their story became another battleground. Imagine that. While their memory should be sacred, their story itself became a battleground. Who were they really? They were approaching suspiciously. Their lights were off. Unmarked vehicles. Fighters inside. All falsehood. The normal regurgitation of the settler, colonial, Zionist, dehumanizing machine. A machine of professional false narratives. They have turned it into an art, creating false narratives, lying through their teeth. But the truth will prevail. The world needs to stop making us prove we are human, he says. Stop assuming that we lie and that our killers tell the truth. That's why every time they give an update on the number of killed and casualties, or killed and injured, they say that as per the Hamas-controlled health ministry, that because the resistance is, of course, in some way, because the resistance is of the people. And the health ministry, being part of that administration, is there to serve the people. But because it is connected to the resistance, oh no. And when you repeat a lie enough times, that's why I've always said the Zionists have learned so much from the persecutors and oppressors of their ancestors in Europe. And one place where they have really excelled is in the propaganda methodology of Joseph Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels was a propagandist par excellence. Said the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. And if you repeat it enough times, people will just accept it. This is the Zionist media apparatus. Zionist sponsored, whatever you want to call it. Just repeat the lies over and over and over again. أصبح الحق باطلا والباطل حقا. Truth has become falsehood, and falsehood has become truth. And falsehood will remain until when? As they say, لن يرفع صوت الباطل إلا إذا غفل أهل الحق. Said the voice of falsehood will never be raised as long as the people of truth are sleeping. People of truth wake up, which I believe they are. The voice of falsehood will just fade away. The world needs to stop making us prove we are human. Stop assuming that we lie and that our killers tell the truth. Stop accepting a narrative that requires Palestinians to be saints in order to be mourned. These medics deserve to be believed, or deserved to be believed. They deserved to be protected, and they deserve justice. But most of all, they deserve, as we all do, to be seen as human. This is the biggest issue with regards to Al-Qadiyya Al-Falastiniya. Fighting for Palestinians to be recognized as human beings. And what human beings, Allahu Akbar. Some of the most beautiful, honorable, dignified, hospitable, caring, loving human beings that you could ever meet in your entire life. And that is why we know they will inherit the land. Because that is something that God Almighty has promised. That the righteous will inherit the land. It is in the Quran. It is in the Bible. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. And we wrote in the Psalms, in the Tehillim. We wrote in the Psalms. We wrote in the Zabur. After the Torah, that the righteous shall inherit the land. Open the Psalms. Go to Psalm 37 and read it. And ask yourself, who is being described in those verses? You get to verse 29, God confirms it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made reference to it in the Holy Quran, you find it there in Psalms 37 verse 29, and the righteous shall inherit the earth forever, or the land. The land here is to do with the Holy Land. The Holy Land, the geographical land of Palestine, Al-Ard al-Muqaddasa, the Holy Land. Who shall inherit it? Who shall inherit it? The murderers, the child killers, the rapists, the genociders, the land thieves, the house demolishers, the olive grove burners. No, the righteous shall inherit the land, not the evildoers. But most of all, they deserved, as we all do, to be seen as human. We have a new story that has come out in the recent hours and this is from the 13th of April, from yesterday, 2025, about the bombing of Al-Ahli Arab Hospital, the Baptist hospital. This is written by Maram Humaid. She writes here, Gaza City, Gaza. Yusuf Abu Sakran was dozing next to his injured child and wife in a tent ward at Al-Ahli Arab Hospital when the sounds of people running and shouting woke him up. He stepped into the hospital courtyard well before dawn on Sunday to ask what was happening, but found no clear answer, only vague news that the Israeli army had made calls to people living around the hospital, demanding the expulsion of everyone in the medical facility. The 29-year-old father reacted instantly. He scooped up his 5-year-old son, Muhammad, and he and Iman ran towards the gate. Muhammad has severe injuries across his body, including third-degree burns on his back and legs, but Yusuf had to keep running with him. I was carrying my son, whose body was burned, and running while he screamed, Yusuf said. His back was bleeding, his wounds were bleeding heavily, and he was screaming in agony. So many people's injuries reopened from the sudden movement. I saw the family of a girl with spinal injuries trying to pull her bed, but it was stuck in the debris. Just seconds after we left the hospital, it was struck by 2 missiles that shook the entire place. I told my wife, imagine if we had been a minute later, we'd be dead. Where to go with an injured boy? Yusuf and his wife were in the street with everyone else from the hospital. It was around 2 a.m. and I had no idea where to take my injured son. He was in pain and bleeding. There were no clinics or hospitals, and the tent we live in is very far and completely unsuitable for his condition. Muhammad had been injured in an Israeli airstrike on a block of homes in Gaza's Shuja'iyya neighborhood, which killed more than 20 people and wounded dozens. An hour after the hospital was bombed, Yusuf and his wife decided there was nothing they could do other than take Muhammad back to Al-Ahli. The place was pitch black, and it reeked of gunpowder and dust. I went to the surgery building at the far end of the hospital and found a nurse who took pity on Muhammad's condition, treated his wounds and admitted him. They bomb our homes over our heads and then bomb hospitals while patients and the wounded are inside. Where are we supposed to go? Isn't all this grief and suffering enough? So Haib Hamid, 20, was sleeping in another tent ward right next to the hospital's emergency building, which was hit. Hamid was injured when he went to fetch flour for his starving family on February 29th. A day known as the Flower Massacre, that was 2024, during which Israel killed 109 Palestinians and wounded dozens while they were waiting for food aid. You can't make this stuff up. He was shot in the leg by Israeli tanks, damaging his bones and tissue to the point that he needed metal implants and has been in an orthopedic department since. My brother, who usually stays with me, wasn't there. I don't even know how I managed to stand on my injured leg, grab my crutches and flee, Suhaib told Al Jazeera as he exited the surgery department after having the wounds to his leg cleaned and checked. I forgot my pain because of what I saw around me. Everyone was screaming in terror and fear, just trying to survive. It felt like the day of judgment. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. A day when a person ran away from his brother and from his mother and his father and from his wife and his children. Imagine the whole, H-O-L, Hawlam, howl of the day of Yom, the fear, the terror. He said this, it was like, in terms of his understanding of what Qiyamah will be like, he said it was like, he said it felt like the day of judgment. Who's being terrorized? Who are the terrorists? Suhaib also managed to get out of the hospital minutes before 2 Israeli missiles landed. My legs couldn't handle it anymore, and my wound reopened and started bleeding again. He couldn't keep walking, so he stopped and called his brother, who came and supported him to their home in Zaytun neighborhood, a half-hour's walk for a healthy person on undamaged roads. Normal, if the roads were not damaged, and for a healthy person, it would take half an hour. The pain in his leg kept Suhaib up, but he was also worried about the hospital being forced to close. I've been staying in the hospital for more than a year, he says, because of my condition. Suhaib has a medical referral to travel outside Gaza for treatment, but has been waiting for a year to leave. Isn't the closure and banning of our travel enough? They even target the hospital that was still treating us with the little that's available, making a catastrophic situation worse. The Israeli strike on Al-Ahli has exacerbated an already catastrophic situation for Gaza's healthcare system, which has been collapsing as Israeli bombardments and a blockade on medicine, medical supplies and fuel continues. In the panic that ensued because Israel did not give hospital staff even the bare minimum time to evacuate patients, a child died due to lack of oxygen, Fadl Naeem, director of Ahli, told Al Jazeera. Israel destroyed the vital emergency, radiology, laboratory and central pharmacy departments, the doctor confirmed. We'll need weeks or months to resume operations. This hospital is a hub for services and includes all essential facilities, including the only CT scan machine available. The fate of patients and the wounded is now unknown. We'll have to distribute them to other hospitals, but no hospital is equipped to provide full services. End of article. And so we shall continue بكلمة الحق, with the words of truth, and that truth will prevail at the end of the day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring this genocide to an end and cause us to witness and be a part of the liberation and the freedom for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Until next time, I leave you all in the protection of Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.